You might be looking at the move knight f5. Fork, king and queen. Well, it's defended by the bishop, which means you know what's not defended by the bishop? The pawn! Navarra sacrificing the queen. Such a rare tactic. You just take a pawn that's protected by by a piece. Your queen is going to be lost. But it's a very simple thing. If you go here, there's nothing for the bishop to attack. I check you, I win the queen, and this endgame is just totally lost. Black is hopelessly lost here. Why? The knight will leave. You will then lose another pawn, and I will probably promote this pawn. You'll just be down 2 pawns in an endgame at this level. At beginner and intermediate level, this is not hopeless at all for Black, but at this level, it's definitely hopeless. So queen takes b5 on the board. Knight to c2 is a really classy counterattack. And probably what Yakoboyev thought after bishop d7 is, queen b5 is simply not possible because I have this amazing knight to c2. Knight to c2 hits the rook and the knight. And you're like, wait a minute, what can I just take? Continuity. I always talk about this, continuity. How a move impacts all the other pieces and squares. You cannot take this. The knight needs to threaten this move. If you take this, you just lose the queen. The knight was supposed to go there. It can't do that anymore. So in many ways, knight c2 is really clever because the queen hangs, the rook hangs, and more importantly, the knight hangs. If I take your knight, your queen is now just floating. It's going to be captured. So what does white play here? It looks like white is totally out of options. White has 3 pieces hanging. David Navarra saw beyond queen b5 and now re-sacrifices the queen. How? Queen c6! I've never seen something like this before. The queen is re-sacrificed on the diagonal. But what's the point? The point is, the queen now threatens the queen. The difference on this square was, if the bishop took, then the knight would go there, but that was it. But now the queen is in your face and threatening to take your queen. And if you take, we already know what's going to happen. If you take, I go knight f5, let's say you move your king to h7, I take your queen, you could take my rook all you want, but after this, yes, for a brief moment, Nordjubek with black is up a point, he's up 1 point, but this pawn's promoting, and this knight's not going anywhere. So you're going to get c7 and bishop b7 or bishop h3, and you're simply going to make the queen. The knight cannot get back to stop you this one. So queen c6 is ludicrous. Now comes queen e7. It gets even better here because white could re-sacrifice the queen again, but he plays the second best move, which is queen c7, sacrificing his rook in the corner of the board, also giving up the knight on e3, and potentially giving it up with a check. Now Navarra has fully committed to winning the game with the d-pawn. He just needs to break down the defenses. Knight takes e3 here is the move played by Yakoboyev, who for a brief second looks like he's back in the game. But here comes d6. So this knight is hitting this, and it has already captured a knight, but you attack the queen, you threaten the rook in the corner, the queen goes to e6, and now Navarra doesn't take the knight. He pins it! He pins the knight, so now it's not going anywhere. Rook takes e3 is going to appear on the board, threatening the queen, and then rook e7 is going to be absolutely decisive, and the rook in the corner is hanging. So we have rook a6 trying to play defense. Now Navarra could just play rook e3 here, but then he would be losing the pawn, so he plays rook d1! It's just, every piece has been hanging. Every single piece has been attacked by every single other piece. Rook d1 simply defends the pawn, and you cannot take it because you would lose your queen. And now on the next move is going to come rook e3. But it's going to get actually even better than that. Navarra could not help but win this game in the utmost of styles. So queen g4 played. You cannot take the knight now, because I would take your rook. You have to take it like this, but you really don't want to play that move. I mean, you block in your rook. So Navarra, he just attacks the queen. He just makes a threatening move because he wants to take like this. Right? Makes sense. Also, the queen has to guard the bishop. So queen a4, very tricky. The queen guards the bishop and still continues to target the rook. Right? So you still can't do this. Well, Navarra, very simple. He just attacks the queen again. He's just deflecting the queen from the defense of all its pieces. Yakoboyev is now hopelessly lost. But how do you actually win this game? Queen takes b3. White can play rook e3. Wait, no, white can't play rook e3. And if white plays pawn takes e3, well then, again, he's blocking all of his initiative, and the queen is going to come back. So how is Navarra going to win this? He's going to take the bishop, but if he takes the bishop, black has this move. Rook f7. Now the queen has to move, and the knight can take the rook or even the bishop, but what do you do here? I'll tell you what you do. You sacrifice the queen again! Queen f7! He just takes the rook that's protecting the king! Unbelievable. The queen sacrificed over and over. Queen b5, queen c6, queen f7, and when the king takes, the pawn just goes. The pawn just goes. d7, and you can't stop the queen. Nobody can stop the queen. Rook a8 is a valiant effort, except the bishop would just take the rook, so that is impossible. So after d7, Yakoboyev took the bishop, and the point of taking the bishop was, if d8 queen, at least I would get your rook, and maybe I can slow you down, but this king is just too weak. Material would be the same, but it doesn't really matter, and you don't even have to take back, because then you would allow some defense. You would just go straight for the king with rook d7. But Navarra is a man after my own heart, and so here, rather than promoting the queen, Navarra, sacrifice the rook! Rook e7 check! One more dagger in the heart of the black king, and the point of this move is that the knight will not be taking the rook, the king will be taking the rook. And if he doesn't, I make a queen, and my rook survives and the attack continues. What makes this all possible is black does not have a move to attack the white king. Everything is protecting everything else, so the king takes on e7. Now you make a queen with a check, and that is the critical difference. King to f7, the rook comes into d7, king g6, queen e8, king g5, and here, you don't even play f4 or h4. You play the quiet move, queen e4. Even in this position, after the battle is over and it's simply a formality to get the king, you still make a beautiful move like queen e4, and there is no way for black to check you. Isn't that completely nuts? White's king is so safe. Yes, of course, this pawn can make a queen, but it's going to take 4 moves, and in the meantime, you threaten rook g7. And so black plays f5, rook g7 check, rook g6, pawn to h4, you get everybody involved. If the king goes to f6, you have queen e7 mate. If you go this way, it's made in a few more moves like queen f5, and Yakoboyev surrendered his king, played king f6, and got mated on the board. A true sportsman, by the way, did not resign, walked into checkmate on the board. David Navarro winning an absolutely breathtaking game.